93
Memories become blurred or misplaced. Seldom are they thrown away. A lifetime of forgotten memories caught in the cobwebs of time. Maybe, just maybe, you'll recall some of your memories as you watch this program. The Oklahoma I Remember.
It was a very special time in my life. It's something that I hold very dear.
They seem to breathe. They shake the ground.
They exist in our memories, and the memory is a wonderful, wonderful thing.
Climb aboard. This streetcar rambling down Grand Avenue in Oklahoma City is headed to the main terminal. In the 1930s and 40s, a streetcar took you where you wanted to go. Business commuters, shoppers, students waited at the terminal. The conductor rolled through the litany of street names and places to let those waiting know where his car was going. Interurban cars traveled at a fast pace between Guthrie, Norman, El Reno, Chickasha, Oklahoma City, Sapulpa, Sand Springs, and Tulsa.
The streetcars took us all over Oklahoma City. We wanted to go someplace, we go to the Capitol, we get on a streetcar. We want to go to the zoo, we go as far as we could on the streetcars.
A big thrill would be just to get on the trolley car and ride it and just see where it was going. And even though maybe it only went, you know, a short distance, it seemed like a long way to me.
Oh, was that fun. And the fact of the matter is there was a station there at 17th and Classen, not far from our school. Used to be an old Marlin gas station, and then they converted it into a streetcar station. But my goodness, you could go all over town for practically nothing. And on Friday nights, that was the end thing to do.
It was cheap. It was cheap, but nobody had any money then, you know.
Streetcars and interurbans clattered down the tracks and around the towns, providing their passengers with plenty of adventure and excitement. It was so easy for you and your best girl or favorite beau to hop on the streetcar.
We'd meet downtown at the terminal, drop our nickel in, get on the streetcar and come out to 17th and Classen, which was a station, get off of the streetcar, get a transfer, get onto the next streetcar, get my transfer, and go out to Belle Isle, which was quite a ways out north, all for a nickel. And wander around the lake out there, and if we could dig up an extra quarter between us, we'd rent a boat and take it out on the lake, and then we'd reverse the thing, drop our nickel in, come to the 17th Street Station, and downtown again for a nickel. So a whole evening might be less than 50 cents, and it was kind of a nice thing.
He was a very dear person, very quiet. Everybody liked him, and he met my mother on an interurban going either to Guthrie or to El Reno. I wasn't there, so I don't know. remember so well, one of my delights was to get on the streetcar and stand up with him when the traffic was slower down Shields. I would stand up there with him and ding the bell on the floor. It was on the floor, of course, and that was real fun.
It meant a great deal to me because it was kind of in my courtship days. We used the streetcars a lot, and they were noisy and clanging, but there was something about the clang. It was a very special time in my life, and something that I hold very dear. All of those feelings I still have with me. I still remember them because they were so much a part of my life. And it was nice, it was romantic, it was beautiful, it was wonderful, I thought. And I treasured them. And when they took them out, I actually cried.
Married, and then when our baby started coming along, there wasn't room in the car to have these kids, you know, and so we had to get a bigger car. So our 36 went by the wayside.
I like to race around a lot.
Well, you were still young.
Bold tycoons and barnstorming pilots opened up a whole new frontier for Oklahoma: aviation. Art Goebel, a former Hollywood stunt pilot with the financial backing of Frank Phillips, flew Woolaroc, a single-engine monoplane nonstop from California to Hawaii to win the celebrated Dole race in 1927. Phillips Petroleum also sponsored aviation pioneer Wiley Post as the oil company expanded the aviation fuel market across the nation. Braniff Airline passenger service was launched in June of 1928 with an inaugural 20-minute flight from Oklahoma City to Tulsa. The ticket price, a mere $14. That would translate to $108 in today's market. For almost 4 decades, Tom Braniff kept the family name aloft across the country and throughout the Western Hemisphere and made Oklahomans proud of their ties to the heavens. Keith Cale's dream of a regional feeder airline became a reality in 1946. Oklahomans could board Central Airlines in McAllister and fly to Oklahoma City or Tulsa in less than an hour. 2 flights daily were scheduled from Ardmore, Ada, Holdenville, Okmulgee, Bartlesville, Ponca City, and Enid to Oklahoma City and Tulsa. A highlight for any passenger, especially youngsters, was an invitation to the cockpit to meet the pilot. The drone of the DC-3, all those gauges and dials, all the important details discussed between the tower and the pilot. It was pure adventure. Central Airlines cruised the Oklahoma skies until 1967 and added to the state's rich aviation legacy.
the long-distance telephone was a telegraph key. All of the telegrams came in from Western Union to the depot, and the depot agent would call the people on the local telephone and have them come down and pick up their telegram. And if you wanted to send a telegram or something, you went down to the depot and wrote out your telegram and give it to the telegraph agent. He sent your telegram for you. Of course, that was the main stem of communication.
Oh, the glory and excitement of trains. Important railroads like the Rock Island, Santa Fe, Golden State, and the old Choctaw lines moved across Oklahoma with speed and efficiency. Freight and passenger trains carried the mail from Aunt Minnie, newspapers from back east, Oklahoma cotton, grain and cattle to market. During the turbulent 1940s, trains were pressed into military service. And after the war, trains brought home sons and fathers. Even today, trains seem to fascinate every generation.
Everybody that came to town on the train, and all the people would come down and see who got off the train.
People would come in and just to watch the trains come in, because that's where all of the social activity and a great deal of business activity took place. That's where the mail came in. That's where the newspapers came in.
I can remember when I was a kid, we would go down and meet the passenger train and watch the passenger train come in, see the people get off the passenger train.
One of the big treats in Chickasha back in the teens and the 20s and all was the Firefly. The whole town would go down. That was recreation.
You know, if we didn't have anything to do, we were down at the train station. Even at night, we'd finish dinner, and this was before TV, and we'd get in the car and go down and watch the train come through. I know Dad would do his best to be there to welcome it and say goodbye to it.
It was the way to go. When you got off in a train, you could get on a streetcar or a bus and go all over town, wherever you wanted to go. And everybody rode the buses and everybody rode the trains, so it was they complemented each other.
It would have been every kid's dream. It was a luxurious way of traveling.
Of course, back in the old days, you know, trains stopped at various depots, and the people got off and went in the Harvey House or the J.J. Greer restaurant.
I think the neatest part is the dining car. Wow.
The dining cars with special design china for each one of their first-class trains, and they were real elegant service. The white linen tablecloths, linen towels, and the finest silver service and china that you could imagine, and special menus for the meals and so forth, and it was real plush. The dining car menus on certain trains were for those particular trains. If you, if you was going up north on a train, that was meat and potato country. If you was going south or west, you knew you was going to get sweet potatoes and cornbread and greens and all kinds of vegetables with your meals. That's the way they did it.
I can remember the first time I saw the sleeper cars. Boy, now that is really luxury to fold back and to bring the bed down, and they'd make up the bed in the tiered type. And then it wasn't too long after that I saw my first compartment. And gosh, now this is really living.
Train depots have a nostalgia all their own. This simple frame building in Hominy conjures up sweet memories, just like the Art Deco depot at Tulsa or the Red Brick depot at El Reno, once one of Oklahoma's largest railroad centers. Some Oklahoma depots have been lovingly restored as museums, like this one at Harrah. A brakeman's lantern was ready by the door. Station agents scribbled their names on the wall, and the pot-belly stove glowed with friendship as the hours ticked away. The Bartlesville Depot of the 30s and 40s has been restored to its Spanish elegance. At Medford, a farmer picked up his seed and kept up with the news around town. Ponca City was an important oil town, so the depot offered wheelers and dealers a comfortable stop. Social centers of the past, like the railroad stations at Salt Fork, Woodward, Elk City, Bristow. Every depot is a work of art. In the movie Home in Oklahoma, starring Roy Rogers, the Davis train station was renamed and used as a location for a scene where cowgirl actress Dale Evans steps off the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe train at Hereford Heaven.
The Oklahoma City Depot was like a fast museum. We'd go down there and just gawk.
You know, I think Oklahoma City's Union Station is it's the jewel of the state, probably.
They had a walkway down under the tracks to each track.
Beautiful, beautiful light fixtures in the Santa Fe, and I guess those are all gone now. Beautiful, beautiful light fixtures in the Santa Fe, and I guess those are all gone now.
You've got the Shawnee Depot and so on for small depots. Very unique, architecturally spectacular.
It was gorgeous. It's got a steeple on it, kind of a slate roof, and it had a long yard in it. I remember we used to walk to the north end of the yard when the circus would come and watch them unload. They were just beautiful buildings at that time.
There were a lot of beautiful trains, but I think most unique was probably the Frisco's Firefly, which was a little streamlined steam locomotive, and it was a spectacularly nice looking little streamliner matching train set, all kind of a medium dark blue. Had kind of the headlight kind of like a big cyclops eye on the front of the thing, on the front of a bullet nose streamlined prow of the locomotive. In the streamline era, the era of the diesel streamliners, the Santa Fe's war bonnet diesels were I think that's probably arguably the nicest looking. A fellow named Leland Knickerbocker, who was the chief designer for General Motors, designed that paint scheme originally for the Super Chief, and then it came to all of the trains as the Santa Fe fully dieselized, and they would have that stainless steel locomotive with the red and yellow war bonnet on the nose, with the stylized Santa Fe symbol on the front, and then a stainless steel fluted side passenger train behind it. Hard to beat that, but if there was a very, very, very near second, it would have been the Rock Island's rocket paint scheme, which was red, maroon over stainless steel. And again, stainless steel train sets behind that. And I think that it's every bit as beautiful a paint scheme as the Santa Fe war bonnet was. Hard to beat.
You've just got to hear a steam engine and hear that whistle. Once you ever hear it, you won't ever forget it, because that steam engine has a romantic sound all its own.
They seem to breathe. They shake the ground. They thunder. You know, they sit there just sitting still, and you can hear them breathing. You know, that sort of metallic lung sound that they make sitting there.
If you had one just sitting there waiting to go, you know, some of them would make a little sound, the steam would release, and a little steam come out and make a little noise, and it was like it was breathing. You know, it would sound like it was breathing. They were, well, really, they were live steams. They were live steam engines. Pete Sutton was one of our engineers we had here. He would have the Johnson bar down in the corner and make long strokes, and when he made those long strokes like that, it would just make them windows go like this here, and it would shake the ground, you know, when he went by.
Oh, mercy. It's a lullaby. That steam whistle and the chugging of the locomotive. You can't stay awake. You have to experience this. Trying to describe it is like telling you how to play a violin. I give you the violin and give you the bow, but I can't tell you how to play it. You got to do that yourself. And that's the way it is with the train. It's fabulous.
might be a quiet creek, a rushing brook, or a backyard pool. One thing is for certain, water is fascinating and fun. Did you ever notice, if you hold the hose just right, you might catch a rainbow? Pretty girls, young bathing beauties, and little boys all agree. Hot Oklahoma days are more fun with refreshing water. Come on in. The memories in the water are fine. Delmar Gardens in Oklahoma City, home of the scenic railway, outdoor dining and dancing, a favorite park for couples in the market for romance.
I was a kid, 35, 36. Dad took us up to Craterville when 35, 36, 37, 39, we came up. Dad's folks were in Lawton. We came up here. They had big Ferris wheels and merry-go-round and the skating rink.
Families and young couples rode the streetcars and interurbans to Belle Isle Park in North Oklahoma City. Belle Isle provided a natural setting for holiday picnics and swimming. The marina maintained a fleet of rowboats and canoes. The dance pavilion resembled a steamboat waiting at the pier. Through the years, the marina, the dance pavilion, even the lake disappeared. The only remaining landmark was the Belle Isle Power Plant, but in 1999, it too disappeared from sight.
Well, it started coming out here in the late 40s. The whole area here was just like a magnet to kids. It was just a thing that we look forward to every year.
Amusement parks in the 60s were the biggest babysitters in the world. I mean, parents could take their kids to an amusement park and forget about them. They felt safe, they felt secure, they knew the kids were having fun, didn't cost much money, so all they had to do is just get out there and just say, hey, go to it. And kids love the atmosphere. Obviously, they always have, they always will. You like a lot of thrills, a lot of excitement, a lot of things that go fast, and that was a place to find them. And we also liked other kids, and that was also a place to find them.
Taking a date to Spring Lake was a big deal. A carousel ride provided its own kind of excitement. the gaily painted horses took you and your date around and around, side by side.
Didn't we ride the little horsies, the merry-go-round?
Yeah.
That was one of my favorites.
The thing that we rode the most, though, was Ferris wheel, because it would go real slow, around
Sometimes it
and
would
around.
stop when we get right at the top.
Yeah, and stop when we got up to the top.
And I'd shake the chair to make it scare you.
And we could see the lights all over everywhere from there. Every time we came out, we had our picture taken in the photo booth, because that was just the thing to do, you know. And they had the photos were, they had metal edges around them, and on the back they had places for you to write the date and everything, you know. And I still have 2 of the ones that we took that are dated 1949. We came out the night he proposed to me out here. That was the night he gave me my engagement ring. We got married in 1950.
Entertainment down in the amphitheater was, I mean, some of the greatest names that people know of now. Conway Twitty spent a lot of time here.
Well, there were great entertainers, you know, Molly B was there, Johnny Horton. Roger Miller, a guy from Oklahoma, of course, drew a huge crowd because he was from the state and he was red hot at the time. Those are the kinds of acts that were at Spring Lake and Wedgwood.
Headliners of the day included the 4 Preps, the Wilburn Brothers, out of the blue of the western sky comes Sky King and his niece Penny. Television made a celebrity of Dan Blocker as host of the international favorite Bonanza. Writing a hit TV series, it's the Cisco Kid and his sidekick Pancho. Here's Little Jimmy Dickens from the Grand Ole Opry. Marty Robbins sang his #1 hit, El Paso. Ray Price always drew a crowd for the good times. Teenagers and amusement parks discovered each other in the 50s and 60s.
Wedgwood, we used to have the Hermans and the Hermits up on the roof. And we do midnight, we do graduation parties, and you know, where everybody'd come out after their graduation deal, and we'd have dances and all that kind of stuff.
All the big bands during those days played Spring Lake. You look in there and you saw pictures of Guy Lombardo, Paul Whiteman, Sammy Kaye, any of the bands, they always played Spring Lake. That place held probably maybe 2,000 people, and it was usually full. I've seen more people get acquainted and get married. You know, they're there and they dance for a while, and the first thing they're real, and they're engaged, and then they get married. And then we play for their wedding. It was a spot to go in summertime.
Might cost you anywhere from 25 to 50 cents to go and listen to Harry James dance there. Jack Teagarden, Woody Herman. It was wonderful.
Well, we had a little fire truck, I think it was. What kind of a car was it?
Little Kaiser
car cut off and made into a truck, and it had a long hook and ladder on the back, and you could hold anywhere from 15 or 20 kids. And we go all over Oklahoma City. It had a siren, red lights. up and take them to Wedgwood, and they'd have birthday cake, ice cream, and ride the rides. We'd go all over Oklahoma City blowing our siren and ringing our bell and our lights flashing, and this went on for, probably 10 years out there. Oh, they loved it. Yeah, they loved it. Wouldn't you like to ride a little fire truck around town? Wouldn't that be fun?
Hello there. This is Groucho from Spring Lake. Why don't you come out to Spring Lake and ride the Big Dipper? See the stars and a couple of big dips. Don't forget, Spring Lake is open 6 days a week, closed on Monday. You can pay one price and ride all the rides all day, or you can buy individual ride tickets. This is a lawless lake. Sit here real tight, or you'll spring out and land in the lake. Oh, Calcutta! And now you know where they get their names from.
The Big Dipper was one of the rides that everybody wanted to do because it was so daring.
Oh, just scared you to death. But it was a fun scare. A real fun one.
The thing to do was hold up your hands during the whole ride and not hold on. It seemed like it didn't last at all. And you were always ready to get back in line, and there was always a line to get back on it again. And in my case, since I didn't ride anything else hardly, I was back on it all the time. It was just one of those rides that I was always fascinated with, and must have been a lot of other people, because it was always full. If I could ride that again, I'd do it in the New York Minute. There's always been something that has been the biggest thing in your life. Back then, I think it was amusement, the amusement park, the Spring Lake Park, the rides, the people. It gives you that memory that won't disappear. Children my age at that time here will always remember. Everybody I talk to remembers.
many years, Oklahomans loved to pack the kids in the family car and go to the movies at the drive-in theater. Tires crackling on the gravel. Pulling the car up next to the speaker. The magic began under the stars in glorious Technicolor on the giant screen. The popcorn always seemed better at the drive-in.
Safely on its holder before you start or move your car. Then drive forward over the ramp and leave by the exit. Thank you.
Visit us often and enjoy our screen attractions in the comfort of your own car. In the mood for hot coffee? When you are, nothing else will satisfy. Coffee has a flavor, an aroma, a deep-down satisfying goodness all its own. And our coffee has something extra, the care with which we brew and serve it. You'll enjoy the show more while you're enjoying steaming hot coffee. Come and get yours now.
I think the drive-in movie theater was the greatest entertainment venue we've ever had in America, and I don't believe there's anything now or anything in the future that will have the interest of the American population as the drive-in movie theater did in the 1950s and 60s.
It was such a different concept.
They'd fill them up every night. It was amazing. You got to enjoy yourself for the evening and at relatively little expense. You used to be able to get a hot dog for 50 cents. You could get a big Coke for 50 cents. The admission in some places was $1 a carload.
And it used to be strictly family entertainment.
The thing that I like about the drive-in is it's just an easy thing to do. We didn't have to dress up. You did not have to wear a certain outfit to go. You could bring your own food. You wouldn't be forced to buy the food that was at the theater, even though the drive-in food was a big draw because people could go and didn't have to cook. You didn't have to have a babysitter. Also, you could take your children in their pajamas, and if the second feature came on, they could sit in the back seat and go to sleep, and you were not under a time crunch. And you could just go and have a nice time and feel like you were totally free watching the movie.
You'll be glad to know that we provide bottle warming service at refreshment stand.
And they used any gimmick they could to get people to come. Some of the drive-ins had their own amusement parks. There were drive-ins with pony rides, there were drive-ins with miniature trains.
We had that gigantic playground, we had the train, we had the car ride, we had a merry-go-round type thing that was motorized. We had live ponies for the kids, but it was a massive thing. Real colorful, bright colors.
The Twilight Gardens was a very ornate drive-in. I've seen the newspaper ads that they ran for it.
We had entrances to that thing off of May Avenue and one off of Britton Road. And where the two intersected, we had a huge water fountain with colored lights.
They would have simulated dancing water shows, and water would shoot up out of the ground out of these ornate fountains. And it would have been a beautiful place, especially at sundown, to see the lighted waters. And that was kind of the selling point of their drive-in, what they were known for.
And all around the fence was plantings of trees and shrubs. It was a beautiful place.
That screen is like 40 by 60, and it's quite amazing to a little kid to go up there and stand under it and look up at it.
Some of them were 150 feet wide, 75 feet tall. When CinemaScope came in the middle 50s, they even had to make the drive-in screens bigger because of the larger formatted films. I think there were a lot of imagination that went into these theaters, and I think the people that built them were true entrepreneurs and some of the greatest showmen that we've ever had. I love the drive-in because I think that there were magnificent structures. I think the neon signs are what I enjoy the most. The beautiful neon at the Winchester, those were called neon spectaculars. And in the original drive-ins in the 50s, that type of artwork would have been directly on the back side of the screen. But in the 60s, they tried to move it out closer to the road, and that was done to get impulse buyers. If we're driving down the road and we see that neon moving, hey, let's go to the movie, and that's what it was built for.
Drive-in theaters had a nickname called the Passion Pit. And this is where a guy took his girl, and they paid their admission to watch a movie, and they never saw the picture.
Our goal was if we could get a date to go to the drive-in with us, we knew we were going to have a good time. Going to the drive-in with the date was probably the movie, not what was on the screen. I remember that fondly. I just think that there are some films that are made to play at the drive-in, and I think they're better at the drive-in than they are at indoor theaters.
Dave! Doc Hallen's been killed.
In the 1950s, America was possessed with atomic energy and being attacked by atomic things, and that's where the movies like Them and the space creature movies and people being injected with atomic radiation. That's what I like about it, is the showmanship, the fun you had there, the structures, the neon, and I like the goofy movies that played there. In Oklahoma City, when the drive-in was in its heyday, I would think that there were probably 12 to 13 drive-ins. And in a town like Tulsa, Tulsa could have supported 7 or 8 drive-in movie theaters.
In the early 50s, there were close to 100 drive-in theaters. By 1960, it had dwindled a few, but not many. By mid-70s, it had dropped to 20, maybe. And today, there's 7 drive-in theaters operating in the state. That's sad to me.
When we opened Twilight in September of 1950, and we enjoyed good business out there until the saturation of TV came along. I think that's part of the America that we're going to miss. Maybe time will bring it back. We'll have to wait and see.
I think at first it might have been dirt road for a little while, and then they paved it, and that was back in '26. Mules. My dad raced mules, and my brother worked on that highway with mules. 66 was a big thing because that was the first cement highway it wasn't coast to coast, but practically.
It was the road, it was the way, it was the greatest that there was. Everybody knew Route 66.
Travel was so important to us, and it wasn't just the destination. We didn't want to get gypped out of a single moment of our vacation experience. When Dad got that 2 weeks, 3 weeks vacation, he wanted to make every moment count. And part of the vacation was the process of traveling, of getting down the road. June of 1952. My dad had a brand new 52 Plymouth. It was green. We called it the Green Dragon, and it was his pride and joy. And you went out and you helped your dad Simonize that big old green Plymouth, and you had it all loaded up, and you took to the road, and you had nothing to look forward to but high, pure adventure. And he backed that Plymouth down the driveway. The moment the wheels touched the pavement, the vacation started. The whole world was on vacation. And you drop down across the line in the old Indian Territory, and all at once, you're home. This is the Quapaw country. And I love going there and slipping down that little town of Quapaw with those nice murals tattooing the brick walls, and then right on down to Miami. Wonderful Route 66 town with that restored Coleman Theater, where Will Rogers stood on the stage and Sally Rand danced with her fans. Then down to Foyle with those restored totem poles. Ed Galloway's totem poles, largest totem poles in the world, beautifully restored to their pristine color. And then you can genuflect and pay your respects to Andy Payne, who won the Bunyan Derby in 1928. He came from Foyle. He helped put Route 66 on everybody's map by winning that transcontinental foot race. Keep on going down, you're paralleling the railroad, the great ally of Route 66, and you'll see those telegraph poles with the green insulators up on their wooden arms. And then, of course, the blue whale down at Catoosa. That blue whale's looking good again. He's all blue, he's got his hat back on, his teeth are pearly white, then slip through Tulsa Town, the oil capital of the world, as it used to be called, and you'll see all the great Art Deco architecture. You'll see the Metro Diner out by the University of Tulsa. You'll see Lyons Indian Store, one of the fine old businesses on Route 66, nestled right up there on 11th Street in Tulsa. Go across the old bridge, next to even an older bridge, which is still sitting there today, the 11th Street Bridge, like a derelict itself, across the broad Arkansas. You know, it's interesting, this whole evolution of the motor court and the cottage, because they have evolved over the years, and they created these cottages, these little homey cottages, your home away from home. So you'd have a row of cottages, then sometimes they'd build a little protective roof where you could slip your sedan in there, what we call a carport today. Then as things got more and more prosperous and business increased, they filled that in and made it a garage, and then sometimes that garage became yet another unit, and you ended up with this classic ranch-style, horseshoe-shaped, circle-up-the-wagons motel. There's a string of stone or rock cottages. Well, and you can see them from the two-lane, from the Mother Road, and they've been sitting there like a derelict now for many years. But there was a time when those were busy, active places, and I hope that they stay erect, because they're a tribute really to a time that's passed. I like those in particular because they're made out of that good native stone. I call that giraffe stone because it looks like the pattern of a giraffe. The Lincoln Motel is a great example, not of a derelict motel, but of one from the old period that's still going strong. What a sweet place to stay. I mean, why would you want to stay anyplace else? I mean, you can just tell when you pull up and you see those metal lawn chairs, painted well, a crisp little American flag out front, a friendly face to greet you inside, give you a key, and then you go down and you open the door and you walk in, and it's all you need is Lucy and Desi or Jack Webb and his dragnet car. I mean, you're back and you're in the 50s. Going down past Francoma Pottery and its big kiln into Sapulpa, into Creek County, lusty, profane and profound Creek County, right through Main Street, Sapulpa, and then you're just heading it west. You're going towards Oklahoma territory. You're going through all those wonderful towns between Tulsa and Oklahoma City, like Bristow and Chandler and Stroud, and you can't forget Arcadia with that restored round barn.
Fill up your tank with white fuel. Fill up 66 white fuel. New higher performance gasoline. 'Cause in your car it's performance that counts. White fuel.
You know, when I was a kid growing up, like a lot of folks, we called gas stations filling stations, because that's what you did. You'd pull in there at that Phillips 66 or that Texaco or down the street at that garage. And sometimes they even had those old gravity pumps still. I can remember those. But you'd get your vehicle, your pickup truck, your family sedan filled up with gas. And if you were lucky and there was time, you went in and there'd be a big metal box filled with soda water, with soda pop. And you'd reach down that cold water, or sometimes it'd be on those metal slots, and you'd get a big old bottle of Grape Knee-High or Coca-Cola or RC. The people pumping the gas, sometimes they even had uniforms on, little bow ties, and they took a lot of pride in their work, and they knew how to work on an engine. And they cleaned the windows of the car, and they checked the oil, and they were friendly. And they knew all the ball scores, and they could predict the weather, and they kept up with politics. And you had conversations, and my dad would get into conversations with these people while we're getting gas. Years later, when I was out on the road and I met some of those guys who pumped gas when they were boys for us, and now they were old men, and I knew that this man had never left El Reno, Oklahoma in his life, except maybe to go out to the Navy or the Marines during the war. Other than that, he had never left that town, yet he had traveled all over the world because all the world came to his gas station. Slip down into Oklahoma City and you go up by the state capitol and you snake all through the state's largest city, and then you're headed due west out through Bethany and across Lake Overholser and then through all the towns, through Yukon with their Chisholm Trail mural. And past the Big 8 and El Reno and the Onion Burgers. Great Canadian River Bridge, that old Pony Bridge, that big yellow bridge spanning the Canadian, and by Lucille's at Hydro.
There's a sign out there in front of it that says Hammond's Court, and it wasn't, you rent them every night. I had 6 cabins altogether to rent. The garages were so little, it's made for Model Ts. You couldn't get a big car in the garage. And you rented a cabin every night. And both this going across the street and mine both were always full.
Clinton, the quintessential Route 66 town in Oklahoma, the home of Pop Hicks, a great 24-hour-a-day greasy spoon filled with love, one of the best liars' tables I've ever encountered. Some of the great liars of all time sitting right in there drinking coffee by the gallon. And you've got Sayre, Quarter Horse Town, and the home of the Owl Drugstore, and a courthouse that appears in the film The Grapes of Wrath. And you've got Eric, where Roger Miller got his voice, and Sheb Woolley learned to become an entertainer. And you can have a lunch or a bite to eat at Cal's. And then you got one more little stop, Texola, nestled right there on the borderlands between the Sooner State and the Lone Star State. Texola, there's a jailhouse, there's a beer joint that's quenched a lot of thirst, and then you know the road just keeps going on.
You're not even halfway there yet. For those of us seeking dreams, or for vagabonds, for Dust Bowl migrants, for GIs going to war, for Mr. and Mrs. America and their kids and their basset hounds, this was the way to go. It was great, especially if you had a fertile imagination. There could be an outlaw, there could be an ambush waiting for you down the road. We had an old AM radio in the car, and we had our minds. And we would travel the road, and we would tell stories, and we would sing songs, and we would pick up different radio stations and stay with that station until we couldn't get it anymore, and it was all staticky, and then we'd pick up the next town. And then we'd get different types of music. We'd get jazz and blues, and we'd get hillbilly. Everything was different, yet it was comfortable. Yet we felt at home because the people made us feel at home, because the people were genuine. Even more important to me as a child, as a kid traveling the road, more important to me than Merrimack Caverns or the Blue Whale or the Totem Poles or Will Rogers' grave were the people that we met at these places. They're the memories that I'll carry with me forever, the people of the road.
Oklahomans have always loved watching a parade come down Main Street. Oklahoma downtowns provided a special atmosphere that spread up and down the avenue. A bank on one corner, a drugstore at the opposite corner, and lots of department stores in between. Downtown was the place to be, with big hotels and Saturday night dance spots. A root beer stand was usually nearby for quick lunches. Bishop's Restaurants in Oklahoma City and Tulsa, and Beverly's Grill were favorite late-night places to eat. People walked along Main Street, looking at the window displays, and once in a while, they would stop for friendly conversations in the downtowns of Oklahoma.
Downtown, Oklahoma City used to be something else. Most of the downtowns were. Even El Reno on Saturday, you had trouble going along the sidewalk. People drive downtown, park, and watch them go by.
People came to Enid on Saturday night to visit with their friends and sit out in front of the stores and shop. Might stay out there until 10, 11 o'clock at night. The stores stayed open until 11 o'clock on Saturday, 10 o'clock on Sunday, and 10:30 Monday through Friday. People that wanted to park out front at night, some of the clothing stores and so forth would not close up until all the cars on the street are gone, because there were still potential customers out front.
And of course, downtown was busy. All the stores were downtown. Everything was downtown.
The downtown was the main thing. To me, in the old days, all the department stores and everything was downtown.
Yes, Brown's. Brown's was wonderful. Brown's was super wonderful. Woolworths, Crest, Greens, and Halliburton's.
I saw Buster Brown one time at Halliburton. I remember I went in to get some shoes. That funny little man was there.
In Oklahoma City, I remember around the old Cat's Drug. Go upstairs for they had the best chocolate soda ever tasted.
If you want to treat you for the afternoon, we'd walk down to the drugstore to get some ice cream. That was a big treat when you're little. Yes.
I don't think it's anything in the world tastes better than a banana split. Split a banana and put some fruit and ice cream and nuts and whipped cream and a couple of cherries on it. I really enjoyed it.
People used to pull up out front in their cars, and they had curb hops, and they would go out and get the order from the car and come back inside, fill the order, take it back outside.
Oklahoma City was wonderful. The Skirvin Hotel, in my opinion, was one of the most beautiful buildings I had ever seen. I would wander through the Skirvin halls and look at that beautiful building. Oh, I thought that was the most beautiful place. And the Black Hotel was another one that was very, very ornate hotel down there. And Huckins was another one. The Huckins, that was a gorgeous place. Oh, I used to wander in there just to get to look at the mezzanine. And the Biltmore, it was kind of home for me. When it went down, we were going on the crosstown over to Capitol Hill, and he said, the Biltmore's going down, do you want to watch it? And I said, no, I don't want to watch it. And I hid my face, so I went and see it go down. And it went down.
Just thinking about going to the movies was exciting. The theaters were magnificent, and the movies brought folks glamorous stars and the chance to visit exotic places. The movie palaces were a world of Greek statues, gold leaf mirrors, thick red carpets, and sparkling chandeliers.
Back before television, they didn't, people didn't have no place to go, so they went to the movies.
People used to flock to the theaters, just flock to them. In those days, you had nothing else to do.
There was no television. What else was there to do? Everybody went to the movies.
You know, back in that day and time, you went to the theater, you wore a suit and a tie, and the men wore hats, the ladies wore hats. It was an occasion. It was an outing, and people dressed appropriately.
When the movie was going on, we seated people. They didn't get up and just come in the door and just go down and find a seat. There was an usher standing at every door, and we would seat them where they wanted to go. And we would always have our flashlights and walk down the aisle and escort you to your seat and made sure you sit down. And it was quite an experience. Oh yes, tuxedo. You wore a tuxedo at all times. Anytime you were on duty, you was wearing a tuxedo.
Even as a kid growing up in Tulsa, we used to go to the Lyric. I took my little brother. We'd go to the Lyric and we'd catch all the westerns and the serials, and it was an interesting theater town. Tulsa was. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs played at the Orpheum, which was they had two big houses in Tulsa. They had the Orpheum and the Ritz. The Orpheum and the Ritz were outstanding. Oklahoma City had more theaters than any place in town, any place in the country, actually.
Criterion was the main one. That's where I saw Gone with the Wind.
The Ultra one was the Criterion. That's a beautiful, beautiful theater.
That theater was the most perfectly constructed theater of theaters. The organ that was in the Criterion cost $25,000 to install. Now, this organ was the epitome in organs. You could rattle the windows with this organ. I mean, it was just fantastic. If you've never heard one of those theater organs, you haven't lived.
Folks, I want you to meet Joan Brooks. Joan, meet the folks.
How do you do?
And now that you're acquainted, you sing the song.
What, in front of all these people?
Well, yes, and they're going to help you too, aren't you, folks? Go right ahead.
You're nobody's sweetheart now. They don't baby you somehow.
Oh, the sing-along all the time. The screen would light up with the words, and he'd sing along all the time. Each time he played, he had to sing along. And people would sing. People would sing. I sang. Great, loved it.
I just can't believe.
On Buddy Day, you get in the show for a dime, and if you had a penny, you could take your buddy for 11 cents. So we would collect mills till we got a penny, take them into one of the merchants, and come in and wait for some guy to come up single and slip up there with him and put our penny down to go to the show. But nobody had any money in the 30s.
Back in those days, we'd pool our money, and we'd send old Joe Britton in and open the window, and we'd all climb in the window. Oh, we had a big time. Big time was had by all. Back in those days, now this was way back, I guess this was probably the early 30s, the Penn Theater at 12th and Penn. So they had a bank night. You would go to the varied businesses around there, and as you made a purchase, they'd give you a ticket. You'd buy something, and they would give you it'd have dishes, and it'd have cash night, and free passes.
Years and years ago, they would give away so many dollars. They'd have a big spinning wheel on the stage, and the theater would literally be packed because people was trying to win. The jackpot would get up to $100. And you know, I remember several times that this theater there would be no seats left in it when those jackpots would get up, you know, so large.
The big thing when I was growing up was the Saturday night preview. You could go to the regular show, and then they'd empty this. They only pay an extra to see the next show, or maybe one wouldn't be in for another week.
They had the Uptown preview on every Saturday night, and man, I'm telling you, the kids from Central High School and from Classen High School and anybody else want to come toured the Uptown Theater preview. Boy, now there was a theater. That was a good time theater.
That was the thing for dates. If when you started dating, you got to go to the preview, and that was where I went on my first date, was to the preview. I can walk into the theater and I'm flooded with memories. I can look at the sides of the building. I can look at where the murals once were, and I'm flooded with memories. And my dad ran the projectors in the theater. They loved the movies. My dad did, and so did my mother. There's a little apartment in the upstairs of the theater building, And they lived in that apartment when I was a baby. There were 2 windows. It was right square in front of the marquee. And we would lie there and look at the sign. To me as a child, it was huge. Oh, cartoons. And they never had enough to suit me. Never. Because I loved the cartoons. I can even remember the Betty Boops.
She can win you with a wing. Ain't she cute? Sweet Betty.
The Poncan, of course, was the theater in Ponca City. They had ushers, usherettes. They wore little uniforms, pants, band jacket type jackets, and little pillbox hats. The interior architecture is like an amphitheater. Up in the top, this big open dome that had indirect lighting around it that represented the sky that you could look up. I remember when Snow White came to the Poncan. It was quite a thing. I can remember road shows that came through. In fact, I think Sally Rand and her fans were performed there at one time, and apparently I was old enough to see them because I can remember it well.
I can remember as a child getting to come to this theater, and it was so elegant. There were 3 different movies every week. So you could come to the movie 3 times a week and never see the same show. In between, you were treated to the playing of that beautiful Wurlitzer organ.
The organ used to play before every movie. You had her songs, and she would sit there and, you know, all that keyboard, even then, you know, it was fabulous. It amazed me that someone could sit there, you know, and make all those sounds on that organ. So it was very interesting. Good old times. Yeah, it was quite an experience. It's been a grand old theater.
And it was beautiful, and when they came in here, all of the thoughts of the things that were happening in their lives, they could leave at the door and be in a magical place to see a movie, not just to see a special movie, but to see a movie in a special place.
And then there was the Villa. There was the Mayflower, Plaza, the Tower, the Will Rogers, there's the Agnew, Rodeo, Redskin. They all closed up with the advent of TV.
And us old people, we have to live with our memories.
Well, we just ran flat out of time, didn't we? Well, that's okay. We'll see you. Bye-bye.